Yes, like Bridge works closely with a lot of companies. So any of the companies that work with Bridge, you can probably safely bet money that they are not getting rid of DEI in any way, shape, or form. Right now, these acolytes who are taking over these companies, these people do not care about profit. And if they can, under the guise of DEI, not only hire people who are incompetent, but also hire all of their friends and buddies who are also acolytes of DEI, eventually they're going to push out the people who care about profits, and they're going to be able to enact the cultural change that they want to have, regardless of whether they're losing money or not.
Zaslav has no issue, from a business standpoint, making a TV show that is driven by DEI or driven by woke or whatever, as long as he can make money with it. But Zaslav is also the kind of guy that understands that one thing I do know is that I can't spend $200 million on a woke DEI TV show because I'm going to lose my
Renegade Online.
Mr. Tickle Trunk with $5. All this DEI is dead. Stuff is dumb. It's Bridge now. It's all something else later. We're going to be dealing with this for some form forever.
I don't think we're going to be dealing with it forever, right? Like, I mean, we always eventually defeat communism, even if it's taken us way too long, in my opinion, this time, because this has been going on basically since World War II, and the subversion of our culture ramped up multiple times, like in the 40s and again in the 60s and then again in the mid 2000s. Like, you can see those hotspot points when they ramp up. Yes, like Bridge works closely with a lot of companies. So any of the companies that work with Bridge, you can probably safely bet money that they are not getting rid of DEI in any way, shape, or form. And then there are the companies like Microsoft, who started working with Bridge more recently. Amazon has had a couple of things in reference to Bridge. And they have like a retreat coming up in May where companies are going to be going to learn even more about this. And I'm going to be going to one of their meetings tomorrow as well.
Oh.
Just seeing what they're going to be saying about some of the companies. I especially have questions about Meta, since Cheryl Dijer just wrote about that recently. But like, I don't think there's any reason to black pill about it, right? Communism doesn't work for a reason. We'll eventually root it out. It just takes vigilance, and it takes pointing it out so people don't celebrate victories too early or celebrate false victories when they point at something like Jack Daniels or Harley Davidson and say, look, DEI's gone, but the company's actually quite literally stated themselves that they're not getting rid of it.
I think there's some companies out there that are genuinely taking this as an opportunity to purge that kind of stuff from their own corporate culture, because I don't think every company out there wanted to get involved with it to begin with. They were pressured into it in the same fashion that they were pressured into a few years before DEI became a real public thing. They were pressured into ESG. And well, okay, we have to adopt these ESG scores. You know, if you're on the Fortune 500 or if you're traded on the NASDAQ, you typically have some kind of ESG score next to it if you go look them up on Yahoo Finance. And all that started because of Larry Fink and BlackRock and places like that. And when you're BlackRock or you're Vanguard and you're the two largest institutional companies out there, and you manage the two largest index funds, which is why they have the power they have. If you look at the BlackRock mutual funds, the S&P 500 index fund, and the Vanguard S&P 500 index fund, right there, again, passive trading, right? You just hold the broad, large market, the 500 biggest companies. There's no active management there. But if everybody or most people are using BlackRock and Vanguard, well, then by default, those S&P 500 index funds that are in so many people's 401k plans and have so much money in it, that's where their power comes from. Because you've turned it over to them unwittingly in many cases, but that's what it is. I mean, that's the way mutual fund companies work. You're handing them your proxy for them to vote on your behalf. They're your, think of them as your duly elected representative for your investments in voting your shares. But that's why they have the power they do, and they've pushed that into these companies. They're the ones that told them they had to do it.
Right? They want to make money. CEOs want, to give the shareholders what they're investing for. They want to make profits. That's what companies desire. So reminding people, and even trying to show people, like, hey, right now these acolytes who are taking over these companies, these people do not care about profit. And if they can, under the guise of DEI, not only hire people who are incompetent, that will just follow along with whatever they say, but also hire all of their friends and buddies who are also acolytes of DEI. Eventually, they're going to push out the people who care about profits, and they're going to be able to enact the cultural change that they want to have, regardless of whether they're losing money or not.
I think you're absolutely right, and that's something that we've talked about a number of times. And now, obviously, we cover more on the entertainment side, Kirsha. So, like, we'll focus in on Disney, for example. And Disney's one of those companies that I don't care if Bob Iger came out and said tomorrow that they were dismantling the entire Reimagine Tomorrow program. No fiber of my being would believe that DEI is making an exit from Disney at all, because they're one of those companies that, unlike probably most of the other ones out there, they actually believe in it. That's part of their core. I mean, they're based out of Burbank in Los Angeles, California. They are in the deepest blue of the blue section of the country, and it's a film and television studio. It's all Hollywood liberals. They live and breathe this stuff. So even though a company like Disney may try to hide it, it ain't gonna leave. But some other companies out there that I think never wanted a part of it to begin with, but they were cajoled into it, put in a corner because, hey, your two biggest institutional shareholders that have tremendous voting power came in and said, we need to do this. Or maybe the whole board gets replaced next year. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah. You could see, what's his name, Zaslav over Warner's. Like, you could see
David Zaslav,
you could see him like abiding by it, because he probably is like, man, this sucks and it's caused me a lot of lost money. But like,
at
Bob
this point, he's
Iger,
probably
no.
outnumbered.
Yes.
Zaslav had the benefit of being able to clean house at Warner Brothers a lot when he took it over from AT&T when they did that whole spinoff and merger deal. But he had way bigger fish to fry early on with a lot of debt reorganization. Some of that, or a lot of that by this point, is smoothed out. And one of the things, since you brought up Zaslav, I've always told folks, Zaslav is, in my opinion, probably one of the most, if not the most pragmatic businessmen in Hollywood. Zaslav, who for decades has run and turned the Discovery family of cable channels into what they are. And there's, I think, 24 of them altogether. All those reality shows that are so popular on HGTV and Discovery and True TV and so on and so forth, that was all Zaslav. Trying to make low-cost television that would yield tons of viewership that people would love to watch and turn in tons of advertising revenue. He's the master at that. Zaslav has no issue from a business standpoint making a TV show that is driven by DEI or driven by woke or whatever, as long as he can make money with it. But Zaslav is also the kind of guy that understands that, well, one thing I do know is that I can't spend $200 million on a woke DEI TV show because I'm going to lose my ass. The size of the audience, the demo for the audience for something like that is just not there. Hey, I can spend 20 or maybe 30 or 40 million making a TV show that is geared in for this one little subset of the demographic out there, but I can't be Disney and make stuff like The Acolyte, where they celebrate how woke and diverse the show is before it comes out, spend $300 million on it, and then it turns into one of the worst performing streaming shows.
Well, like the thing that also happens with those is like some of the actors come out, some of the writers come out, people who worked on the show come out, and they just take a shit all over the people who actually enjoyed the IP.
Right. Well, that's been Star Wars' problem since 2012 when Disney bought it. Yeah. That's why that doesn't work anymore.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.